The manila folder landed on my desk with a soft thud. Inside were 2 resumes that would change everything. My fingers trembled slightly as I opened it, though I'd spent 15 years preparing for this moment. I'm Rachel, CEO of Nexus Technologies, and the names staring back at me belong to my mother and sister. "Colin?" I called out, my voice steady despite the thundering in my chest. My assistant appeared in the doorway, his usual crisp demeanor tinged with concern. "Yes, Rachel? Did they say how they found out about the positions?" "LinkedIn posting. They have no idea who you are." He paused. "Are you sure you want to do this?" The question transported me back to that night, 15 years ago. I was 17, clutching an acceptance letter from Stanford's computer science program. Full-ride scholarship. My dream school. "Mom!" I'd shouted, running down the stairs. "Mom, I got in!" The kitchen fell silent. Kendall, my sister, stood frozen by the counter. Mom's face was ash white. "That's impossible," Kendall had whispered. "What do you mean impossible?" I'd asked, confused by their reactions. This should have been a celebration. Mom snatched the letter from my hands. "This must be a mistake. Kendall applied to Stanford." "I applied too," I said. "Remember, I showed you my application." The silence that followed was deafening. Kendall's eyes darted between Mom and me before she finally spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice breaking. I switched our applications. I used your test scores and essays. That acceptance, it's meant for me." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "Kendall," Mom cut in, "you shouldn't have said anything." I stared at them both, uncomprehending. "Mom, she stole my application, my scores, my future. Rachel, be reasonable," Mom said, her tone dismissive. "Kendall needs Stanford more than you do. She's always been meant for bigger things. You're practical. Community college would suit you better." The words hit like physical blows. You knew she did this?" "It's already done," Mom said firmly. "Kendall deserves this opportunity. You're not going anywhere special anyway." I remember running to my room, tears burning my eyes. That night I heard them talking through the walls. "She'll get over it," Mom had said. "Rachel always settles." Back in my office, Colin was still waiting for my answer. I smoothed my silk blouse, a far cry from the second-hand clothes I'd worn back then. "Schedule the interviews," I said, "but don't let HR handle it. I want to conduct them personally." "Both of them?" Colin raised an eyebrow. "Together? No. Separate interviews. Mother first, then daughter." I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. "Let's see how they handle being judged on their own merits." Colin nodded, but lingered in the doorway. "Milena asked if you wanted her to sit in." "Yes," I said. "She should witness this. She was there for the aftermath, after all." I stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's skyline. 15 years of grinding, of proving them wrong. Community college while working 2 jobs, teaching myself to code between shifts, fighting my way up through a male-dominated industry that tried to dismiss me at every turn. My phone buzzed. A text from Camden, my CTO. "Quarterly numbers are in. We crushed it." I smiled, genuine this time. My company, built from nothing but determination and spite, was now valued at over $1 billion, and tomorrow the 2 people who tried to bury my dreams would walk through those doors, desperate for a job. "Colin?" I called out again. He reappeared. Yes? When you call to schedule the interviews, use my assistant's line. Don't mention my name or position. Just tell them they'll be meeting with the CEO. Of course. He paused. Rachel, what exactly are you planning? I picked up their resumes again, studying the desperate embellishments, the gaps in employment. Justice, Colin. 15 years in the making. He nodded slowly. I'll make the calls now. As Colin left, I sank back into my chair, remembering Mom's words. You're not going anywhere special anyway. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message to Milena. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. You're going to want to see this. The response came immediately. Finally time? Yes, I typed back. Time to show them exactly where Nowhere Special got me. I closed the folder and straightened my desk. Tomorrow would change everything, and I intended to savor every second of it. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I found myself at my kitchen window at 3 a.m., nursing a glass of wine and remembering the years that followed the Stanford incident. The city lights below blurred as the memories rushed back. Community college wasn't just a step down, it was a free fall. I'd gone from AP classes and perfect SATs to sitting in overcrowded basic programming courses, watching my classmates struggle with concepts I'd mastered years ago. At least you're where you belong now, Kendall had said during one of her rare visits home from Stanford. She'd stopped by the diner where I worked morning shifts, ordering a latte with that practiced casual cruelty she'd perfected. How's the local college treating you? I'd wiped down her table with more force than necessary. Fine. Mom says you're taking computer classes? She'd laughed. That's cute. Still chasing that tech dream? I'd said nothing, just kept wiping tables. The regulars had started leaving me bigger tips, noticing how I'd study between customers, coding on my ancient laptop. That's where I met Milena. She was a customer service rep at a local tech firm, working her way through night classes. She'd spotted me debugging a practice exercise during my break. Your solution's elegant, she'd said, peering at my screen. But you could optimize that loop. That was the beginning of a friendship that would change everything. Milena taught me about networking, about carrying myself with confidence even when I felt like an imposter. She became my first real ally. The memory shifted to a family gathering 6 months later. I'd just landed my first coding internship, paying barely above minimum wage, but offering real experience. Rachel's got an office job now, Mom had announced to our relatives, her tone dripping with fake enthusiasm. Answering phones or something, right, dear? I'm a junior programmer, I'd corrected her. Oh, is that what they're calling it? She'd turned to my aunt. She's barely staying afloat, but you know Rachel, always settling for less. I'd excused myself to the bathroom, where Kendall found me minutes later. Don't let Mom get to you, she'd said, checking her makeup in the mirror. Not everyone can be successful. Someone has to do the small jobs. I'd gripped the sink until my knuckles turned white. How's Stanford? She'd hesitated just a fraction too long. Amazing, of course. Everything I deserved. I found out the truth 2 weeks later. A mutual friend let slip that Kendall had dropped out after 3 semesters. The stolen opportunity she'd fought so hard for. Wasted. My phone buzzed, pulling me back to the present. It was Milena. Can't sleep either? She texted. Just reviewing the past. Remember that night at Joey's bar, when you got your first real job offer? I smiled. That had been a turning point. Camden, now my CTO, had been leading a development team at a rising tech firm. He'd overheard me explaining a complex algorithm to Milena. You know your stuff, he'd said, sliding onto the bar stool next to us. Where'd you study? Self-taught, mostly. Community college. Instead of the usual dismissal, he'd asked me to solve a problem on a napkin. By closing time, I had a job offer. My phone buzzed again. It was Colin. Laura confirmed for 9 a.m., Kendall for 10:30. Perfect, I replied. Make sure security has their photos. Already done. Camden wants to know if he should be there too. I considered it. Camden had been there for my rise, had partnered with me when I decided to start my own company. He'd seen firsthand how I'd fought for every inch of progress. Tell him yes. He should see this through too. Another text from Milena. Remember what they said when you quit your job to start Nexus? How could I forget? I'd made the mistake of telling Mom and Kendall over dinner. A tech startup? Mom had scoffed. Don't be ridiculous, Rachel. You'll lose everything. You need connections to succeed in tech. Kendall had added. Real connections, not just your community college friends. They had no idea that by then I'd already secured major investors, that Camden, Milena, and a team of brilliant developers believed in my vision, that I'd learned more coding in those years of necessity than Kendall had in her brief stint at Stanford. I put down my wine glass and walked to my home office. On the wall hung my first dollar earned, next to a framed magazine cover featuring Nexus Technologies' breakthrough software launch. I'd kept my name out of the press, used only my first initial in publications. R. Meyer, the mysterious CEO. Tomorrow, that mystery would end. Tomorrow they'd learn exactly what their practical daughter had built. My phone lit up one last time. Camden. Ready to show them what settling looks like? I smiled. More than ready. I arrived at the office early, before sunrise. The security guard nodded as I crossed the lobby, my heels clicking against marble floors. Big day, Ms. Rachel. You could say that, Tom. My first hire had been a janitor who caught me sleeping at my desk during our startup days. He'd brought me coffee instead of reporting me. Now he ran our entire facilities team. That's what I built my company on, recognizing potential others missed. Camden was waiting in my office, 2 coffee cups in hand. Thought you might need this. You're here early. Wouldn't miss it. He handed me the stronger brew. He'd learned my preference during those endless coding sessions when we were building our first prototype. Remember that investor meeting, when they said we'd never make it? I laughed. Which one? The one who said I was too young, too female, or too unfocused? The one who said you lacked the educational pedigree? Camden grinned. What's he worth now, compared to you? About $1 billion less, I said, sipping my coffee. Colin appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. They're both in the building. Your mother's in the north lobby, Kendall's in the south, as requested. Perfect. Let's not keep them waiting. I straightened my blazer. Colin, bring my mother up first. Have Kendall wait in the ground floor conference room. I watched on the security feed as Colin greeted my mother. She'd aged, but still carried herself with that same air of superiority. Her clothes, though, told a different story, slightly worn, last season's style. Mrs. Meyer? Colin's voice came through clearly. Please follow me. Milena joined me in my office. Ready? I've been ready for 15 years. We watched through the one-way glass as Colin led my mother into the waiting area. She sat stiffly, clutching her purse, practicing what looked like a forced smile. Rachel, Milena said softly, remember when we were studying for your certification exam, in that tiny studio apartment? I did. I'd been working 2 jobs, coding all night. Milena would bring takeout, quiz me on algorithms while I scarfed down cold noodles. You said something that night, she continued. You said you weren't doing this for revenge. You were doing it to prove them wrong about what you could become. Maybe it's both. The intercom buzzed. Colin's voice. Rachel? She's ready. I took a deep breath. Send her in. The door opened, and my mother walked in. For a moment she didn't recognize me. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, that practiced smile plastered on her face. Mrs. Meyer? I said softly. Please, have a seat. She looked up. The smile froze, then cracked. Her purse slipped from her fingers, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. Rachel? Hello, Mom. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. We should talk about your application. She didn't move. Her eyes darted around my office, the awards on the walls, the city view, the elegant furniture. This is... You're... the CEO? Yes. I kept my voice level. Please sit. She sank into the chair, her facade crumbling. I didn't know. We had no idea. That's by design. I opened her resume on my tablet. Let's discuss your qualifications. You're applying for an administrative position. Rachel, please. It's Ms. Meyer in this office, Mom. Or did you forget how to show proper respect in a professional setting? Color flooded her cheeks. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about my company. I scrolled through her resume. Interesting gap here between 2018 and 2020. Care to explain? You know what happened? The divorce, the downsizing. Actually, I don't know. We haven't spoken in, 5 years? I looked up. Not since you told the Wilsons I was wasting my potential at some little computer company. Milena stepped forward. Mrs. Meyer, I'm Milena Bradley, head of HR. We take our hiring process very seriously here. Mom's eyes narrowed. Milena? The girl from the diner. The woman who helped build this company, I corrected. Unlike some people, she saw potential where others saw... What was your word? Ah, yes. Settling. Rachel, I was trying to protect you. From what? Success? Independence? Or just from outshining your precious Kendall? I closed her resume. Speaking of whom, she should be getting anxious downstairs. Colin? Yes, Rachel? Please show Mrs. Meyer out and send up my sister. Mom stood, shaking. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I met her eyes. No more than you enjoyed watching me struggle. The difference is, I earned my position to judge. As Colin led her out, Camden stepped in. One down. I straightened my desk. 1 to go. And something tells me Kendall's interview will be even more interesting. The security feed showed my mother stumbling into the lobby, fumbling for her phone. Kendall answered on the first ring. I could see her pacing in the conference room downstairs. Cut the audio feed, I told Colin. Let them have their moment. While they talked, I pulled up Kendall's resume. 3 jobs in 2 years, each ending mysteriously. The Stanford education she'd stolen from me was conspicuously absent. She's on her way up, Colin announced. Camden leaned against the wall. Want me to leave? No. You were there when she tried to sabotage our first contract. I'd never told him it was my sister who'd spread rumors about our company's stability to potential clients. He'd just helped me fight back harder. The door opened. Kendall walked in with the same confident stride she'd always had, though her designer outfit couldn't hide how thin she'd become. She froze mid-step when she saw me. Holy shit, she whispered. Language, Kendall. This is a professional environment. I smiled. Please, sit. She didn't. Mom just called. She said, but I didn't believe. That your little sister runs the company you're begging to work for? I gestured to the chair again. Sit down. We have a lot to discuss. She sat, her movements stiff. Rachel, I can explain. Explain what? The stolen application? The sabotage attempts? Or maybe your latest job termination? I held up her resume. Interesting how you left out the reasons for leaving your last 3 positions. You've been tracking me? No need. Your failures made the industry newsletters. I pulled up an article on my tablet. Rising sales director terminated for ethical violations. That was you, wasn't it? Her face reddened. That was a misunderstanding. Like Stanford was a misunderstanding? I kept my voice calm. Tell me, how long did you last there? 3 semesters? You don't understand what it was like. Kendall's composure cracked. The pressure, the expectations, the actual work. I stood, walking to my window. You know, I used to wonder how you managed to fail with every advantage you stole from me, but now I get it. You never learned to earn anything. That's not fair. Fair? I turned back to her. Let's talk about fair. While you were partying at Stanford, I was coding between waitressing shifts. While you were dropping out, I was building my first app. And while you were getting fired for cutting corners, I was building this company from nothing. Camden stepped forward. Ms. Meyer, should I pull up the records of the contract interference? Kendall's eyes widened. You knew about that. We knew. I sat back down. Just like we knew about the calls you made to our early investors, spreading lies about our stability. I needed the job they were offering. Kendall's voice rose. You don't know what it's like to struggle. To struggle? Milena cut in sharply. I watched your sister sleep on my couch because she couldn't afford rent between coding boot camps. Where were you then? Having lunch with Mom, I answered for her, laughing about how I was wasting my time with computers. Tears welled in Kendall's eyes. Rachel, please, I need this job. I'll do anything. That's the problem. I opened my laptop. You've always been willing to do anything. Lie, cheat, steal, except actually work for what you want. I've changed, she whispered. Have you? I pulled up a final document. Because according to your reference check, you tried to take credit for a colleague's project just last month. Old habits die hard, don't they? The fight seemed to drain out of her. What are you going to do? Nothing. I closed my laptop. You've done it all to yourself. Every choice, every shortcut, every betrayal led you right here, begging for a job from the sister you tried to destroy. Mom was right, Kendall said bitterly. You've turned cold. No, I've turned successful. There's a difference. I pressed the intercom. Colin, please escort my sister out, and make sure security has both their photos. They're not to be allowed back in the building. As Colin led Kendall to the door, I called out. Oh, and Kendall, that scholarship you stole, I matched it last year, created a fund for underprivileged students, 10 full rides to Stanford's computer science program. Guess what I named it? She turned, face pale. The Second Chance Scholarship, because everyone deserves one, even if some people waste theirs. The door closed behind them. Camden whistled low. Brutal. But necessary, Milena added. I stared at the door, feeling lighter than I had in years. Send the security footage to my private server, Colin, and clear my schedule for the rest of the day. Planning to celebrate? Camden asked. No. I picked up my phone, seeing the missed calls from my mother already piling up. Planning to finally move forward? Revenge might be sweet, but success? I smiled. Success is sweeter. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts, calls, emails, all from numbers I'd blocked years ago. Extended family, old neighbors, even my father who'd stayed silent during the whole Stanford debacle. Your mother's on line 3, Colin announced through the intercom. Again. Keep screening the calls. I focused on my laptop, reviewing our latest acquisition proposal. How many times is that now? 17 since yesterday. Kendall's tried 12 times. A knock on my door interrupted us. Milena entered, holding a tablet. You need to see this. She handed me the device. On it was a local business blog post. Tech CEO's family drama exposed, inside the Meyer sisters' corporate showdown. It's going viral, Milena said. Your mother must have talked to someone. I skimmed the article. It painted me as the vindictive sister, twisting the narrative into something ugly. Classic mom, always controlling the story. Rachel? Camden appeared in the doorway. The board's calling an emergency meeting. Of course they were. Nothing scared investors like family drama. I straightened my jacket and grabbed my presentation folder. Time to face the music. The boardroom was tense when I entered. 8 pairs of eyes watched me take my seat at the head of the table. Ms. Meyer, Harrison, our lead investor, began. Care to explain this morning's headlines? I opened my folder calmly. Actually, I'd prefer to discuss our Q3 projections first. We're up 47% from last year. Rachel, he said firmly, this is serious. Your personal life has nothing to do with my ability to run this company. I met his gaze. But since you're concerned, let me be clear. Yes, I interviewed my mother and sister for positions they were grossly unqualified for. Yes, I rejected them. And yes, they're now trying to spin it into a scandal. It's not just about the interviews. Another board member cut in. Your sister is claiming you built this company on stolen ideas. I laughed. Actually laughed. Camden, would you like to address that? Camden stood, distributing folders to the board. These are the original patents for our core technology. Note the dates. And these... He dropped another stack of papers. Are Ms. Meyer's coding commits from the early days. Every line of our foundation was written by her, usually between midnight and 4 a.m. While working 2 jobs, Milena added from the doorway. I have the timesheets to prove it. Harrison flipped through the documents. And the Stanford situation they're talking about is exactly why I created the Second Chance Scholarship, I said smoothly, to ensure other talented students don't lose opportunities to family sabotage. The room fell quiet as they processed this. Finally, Harrison spoke again. You've prepared for this day, haven't you? For 15 years. I pulled up our latest project specs on the room screens. Now, about those Q3 numbers. The meeting ended 2 hours later. As the board filed out, Harrison lingered. You know, he said, when we first invested, some thought you were too young, too inexperienced. I'll bet on you anyway. Want to know why? My brilliant business plan. Your eyes. You had the look of someone who'd fought for everything they had. He smiled. Still do. Don't lose that. After he left, I found Colin waiting at my office. Your father's in the lobby, he said quietly. Should I send him away? I considered it. Dad had never actively participated in my humiliation, but he'd never stopped it either. His silence had been its own kind of betrayal. What's he saying? That he's proud of you, that he should have spoken up years ago. My throat tightened. Send him up. When my father walked in, he looked older than I remembered, greyer, smaller somehow. Rachel, he said softly, you've done well for yourself. No thanks to you. He nodded, accepting the hit. I know. I was a coward, watched your mother and sister tear you down, and I said nothing. Why are you here, Dad? To apologize, and to warn you. Your mother's talking about legal action, some nonsense about emotional distress. I smiled. Let her try. I have 15 years of documented harassment and interference. Plus, she signed our standard non-disclosure agreement before her interview. You really did think of everything. I had to. I met his eyes. No one else was going to protect me. He flinched. You're right, but Rachel, don't let this define you forever. You've won. More than won. Maybe it's time to... To what? Forgive and forget? To be free of them. Really free. He turned to leave, then paused. By the way, I saw your scholarship program. 10 full rides to Stanford? Yes. Make it 11. He pulled out a check. Consider it 15 years of missed birthday presents. After he left, I stared at the check for a long time. Then, I picked up my phone and called the Scholarship Foundation. Sometimes revenge isn't just about getting even. Sometimes it's about making sure no one else has to fight as hard as you did. The media storm hit full force by the end of the week. I was in a product development meeting when Colin burst in. Rachel, you need to see this. He turned on the wall-mounted TV, flipping to a local news channel. There was my mother, perfectly coiffed despite everything, sitting for an interview. The caption read, Mother claims tech, CEO daughter's vengeful campaign, destroyed family. Turn it up, I said quietly. My daughter, Mom was saying, dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue, has harbored this resentment for years. She built her entire company just to humiliate us. What kind of person does that to their own family? Camden muted the TV. Want me to release those recordings from the interviews? Not yet. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from the PR team. Let's see how deep she wants to dig this hole. Milena appeared in the doorway. Kendall's outside. Security stopped her, but she's making a scene. I walked to the window. Sure enough, my sister was in the plaza below, waving what looked like old photos at gathering reporters. Enough! I pressed the intercom. Colin, call building security. Have them clear the plaza, and get our PR team up here now. Within an hour, my office was filled with crisis managers and lawyers. They talked over each other, suggesting statements and strategies. Stop, I said finally. Just stop. I'm handling this my way. Ms. Meyer, our head of PR protested. We need to control the narrative. The narrative? I stood. Let me tell you about narratives. For 15 years they controlled the story. Poor Kendall, who needed that scholarship more. Practical Rachel, who should be grateful for community college. The dutiful daughter who just couldn't measure up. I walked to my desk and pulled out a thick file. This is my narrative. I dropped it on the conference table. Every email, every voicemail, every attempt to sabotage my career, dating back to the Stanford incident, all documented, all time-stamped. The lawyers scrambled for the file. There's more, Camden added, sliding over a USB drive. Security footage from the interviews. Shows everything. And this, Milena said, producing another folder, Records of their attempts to interfere with company contracts, plus the NDAs they signed before their interviews. The PR team fell silent. "So," I said calmly, "here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hold a press conference. One time, one story, my truth. After that, anyone who continues this smear campaign will face legal action." "The press is already calling it an abuse of power," someone pointed out. "Power?" I laughed. "Let me show you power." I pulled up our company's charitable giving records on the main screen. Last year alone, we funded 50 women in STEM scholarships, built 3 tech training centers in underserved communities, launched a coding program for foster kids. I turned to face the room. That's power, using success to open doors for others, not slamming them shut like they tried to do to me. The PR team was scribbling frantically now. "Schedule the press conference," I told Colin, "and make sure they're all there. Mom, Kendall, every relative who's been running to the media. Front row seats." "When?" I checked my calendar. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Enough time for them to worry about what I might say." As the team filed out, Camden lingered. "You're really going to tell everything?" "Not everything." I smiled. "Just enough to make them realize how much worse it could be if they keep pushing." That evening, as I prepared my statement, my father called. "I saw your mother's interview," he said. "Everyone did." "Rachel," he paused. "Whatever you're planning for tomorrow, remember something. The best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about outshining them so completely they become irrelevant." I looked at the speech on my screen, at the devastating details I'd planned to reveal. "Maybe you're right," I said finally. After we hung up, I deleted the document and started fresh. Instead of exposing their lies, I'd tell my truth. About a girl who turned rejection into motivation, who built something meaningful, not despite her family's betrayal, but because of it. My phone buzzed with a text from Milena. "Ready for tomorrow?" "Getting there," I replied, "but I'm changing the script." "How so?" I thought about the scholarship students I'd met last week, their bright eyes, their determination, their gratitude for the chance my family had tried to deny me. "I'm going to thank them," I wrote back. "Thank them? For what?" "For teaching me the difference between success and revenge, for showing me that the best response to cruelty is to create opportunity for others." "They won't understand that," Milena texted. "No," I agreed, "but everyone else will." I turned back to my computer and began to write. Tomorrow, I'd tell my story. Not as a victim seeking vengeance, but as a founder who turned pain into purpose. Let them try to spin that. The auditorium was packed. Camera flashes popped like lightning as I took the stage, my heels clicking against hardwood. In the front row, exactly where I'd placed them, sat my mother and sister, their faces set in practiced expressions of concern. Colin handed me a glass of water. "They're all here. Every major network." I nodded, adjusting the microphone. "Good morning. Thank you for coming." The room fell silent. There's been a lot of speculation about recent events at Nexus Technologies, about interviews conducted, opportunities denied, and most of all, about family. I paused, meeting my mother's gaze. "So, let me tell you a story about opportunity." Kendall shifted uncomfortably in her seat. 15 years ago, I was accepted to Stanford's computer science program, full scholarship. It was my dream, earned through years of hard work, perfect test scores, and countless late nights coding. The reporters' pens scratched frantically. That Opportunity was taken from me, not by fate or circumstance, but by people who decided I didn't deserve it. I smiled. They were right, in a way. I deserved something better. Mom's practiced concern cracked slightly. Instead of Stanford, I went to community college, worked as a waitress, taught myself to code between serving coffee and clearing tables. And there, in that diner, I learned something Stanford never could have taught me. I stepped away from the podium, addressing the room directly. I learned that success isn't about where you start. It's about how far you're willing to go. Every rejection, every dismissal, every person who said I was settling just gave me more fuel. Camden stood at the back, grinning. Last year, Nexus Technologies launched the Second Chance Scholarship, 10 full rides to Stanford's computer science program, now 11, thanks to a recent donation. But today, I'm announcing something bigger. I clicked a remote and the screen behind me lit up. The Nexus Foundation for Tech Innovation, a $50 million initiative to build technology training centers in underserved communities, to fund startups led by overlooked founders, to ensure that no one with talent and drive gets pushed aside because they don't fit someone else's idea of success. Gasps rippled through the audience. My mother's face had gone pale. And the first center, I continued, will be built right here in Seattle, on the site of the diner where I worked, where I learned that sometimes the best revenge is proving everyone wrong by helping others succeed. A reporter's hand shot up. Ms. Meyer, your mother claims— My mother, I interrupted smoothly, taught me an invaluable lesson about power. Those who abuse it, lose it. Those who share it, multiply it. More hands raised. I pointed to a young reporter in the back. Your sister accused you of building your company solely for revenge. How do you respond? I laughed. Look around this room, at our employees, our scholarship recipients, the lives we've changed. Does this look like revenge? This is redemption. Kendall stood abruptly, heading for the exit. Mom remained frozen in her seat. One final announcement, I said. To the young woman who lost her Stanford scholarship last week due to family financial troubles, check your email. You're our newest second chance scholar. The room erupted in applause. As it died down, I delivered my final blow. Someone once told me I wasn't going anywhere special. They were wrong. I was going everywhere they said I couldn't, and I'm holding the door open behind me. The press conference ended in a flurry of questions and camera flashes. As security cleared the room, my mother approached the stage. Rachel, she said, her voice shaking, that scholarship fund, you named it. Second chance, I finished. Ironic, isn't it? You took my first chance, so I created thousands more. I never meant— Yes, you did. I gathered my papers. But thank you. Your cruelty built something beautiful. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a foundation to run. Colin appeared at my side. Rachel, the new scholar is here, the one you just announced. Send her in. A young woman entered, tears streaming down her face. Ms. Meyer, I can't believe— My family, they said college wasn't for people like me. People like us, I corrected, stepping down from the stage. Come on, let me show you around your new future. As we walked out, I caught my mother's reflection in the glass doors. She stood alone in the empty auditorium, watching her carefully constructed narrative crumble around her. But I didn't look back. I had scholarships to award, doors to open, lives to change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. And bringing others with you. The sun was setting when I finally returned to my office, casting long shadows across the city skyline. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the press conference. Messages of support, media requests, and most surprisingly, apologies from long silent relatives. "Rachel?" Colin knocked softly. "There's someone here to see you." "I'm done with visitors today." "It's the diner owner. Margaret." My heart stopped. Margaret! The woman who let me study during slow shifts, who'd slipped me extra food when I could barely afford rent. "Send her in." She looked exactly the same. Silver hair in a neat bun, flour-dusted apron, kind eyes that had seen too much of life to judge. "Look at you," she said, spreading her arms. My little coding waitress all grown up. I hugged her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of coffee and fresh bread. "Margaret, I'm so sorry I didn't tell you about buying the property." "Hush." She pulled back, holding my shoulders. "I came to thank you. That diner, it's been struggling. I was going to lose it anyway, but turning it into something that helps kids like you that's better than anything I could have done with it. We're not tearing it down," I said quickly. "The training center will incorporate the diner. Keep it running. Keep you in charge. Those kids need somewhere to study, right?" She wiped her eyes. "You always were too smart for your own good." A knock interrupted us. Milena entered with a tablet. "Sorry, but you need to see this. Your mother's posted something online." My stomach tightened as I took the tablet, but instead of another attack, I found a public apology. Long, detailed, raw. "I let pride and favoritism blind me," I read aloud. "I damaged not just one daughter, but both. Rachel succeeded not because of me, but in spite of me. Kendall failed not because of her potential, but because I never let her find it. I'm sorry." "Keep reading," Milena urged. "To honor my daughter's example, I'm selling my house and donating the proceeds to the Nexus Foundation. It's time to stop tearing down and start building up." Margaret squeezed my hand. "People can surprise you. They can," I agreed, thinking of my father's donation, of Kendall's silence after the press conference. "But actions matter more than words." Camden appeared in the doorway. "Speaking of actions, the first scholarship applications are flooding in. Want to help review them?" "Actually," I said, "I have a better idea. Margaret, how would you like to join our scholarship committee? You spotted my potential when nobody else did." She beamed. "I'd be honored." We spent the evening reviewing applications together. Margaret, Milena, Camden, Colin, and me. Ordering takeout, sharing stories, finding diamonds in the rough, just like others had once found me. My phone buzzed with a text from Kendall. "Can we talk? Not about jobs of the past, about the future." I showed the message to Milena. "What do you think?" "I think," she said carefully, "that success includes knowing when to extend the same grace you wished you'd received." I typed back, "Coffee tomorrow, at Margaret's Diner. Let's start fresh." "Look at this one," Camden said, holding up an application. "Single mom, teaching herself to code between night shifts. Reminds me of someone." I took the application, reading the personal essay. The words could have been mine from 15 years ago. Dreams, determination, desperation for a chance. Full ride, I decided, and an internship offer. "You can't save everyone," Colin cautioned. "No?" I agreed. "But we can open the door. They'll save themselves." Margaret stood, brushing off her apron. "Well, I should head back. Got pies to bake for tomorrow." "Wait." I grabbed my coat. "I'll walk you. Maybe I could help with the baking? Like old times." She smiled. Thought you were too important for that now? Never. I turned to the others. Coming. Margaret's pie-making lessons are legendary. As we walked through the quiet streets to the diner, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of revenge had lifted, replaced by something better. Purpose. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Mom. The house sells next week. The foundation will have the money by month's end. I know it doesn't fix the past, but maybe it helps build the future. I showed Margaret the message. Well, she said, unlocking the diner door. Looks like everyone's getting a second chance. No, I corrected, breathing in the familiar scent of home. We're creating new chances for everyone. The bell chimed as we entered, and I hung my CEO blazer next to Margaret's spare apron. Time to get my hands dirty again. This time, building something sweeter than revenge. Sometimes the best endings aren't about closing doors, but opening new ones, and keeping them open for others to follow.
I watch through my car window as they string up gaudy decorations across my front porch, and I can't help but smile at the irony. The banner reads, "Freedom at last," in garish red letters. They have no idea. My name is Leah, and in exactly 47 minutes I'm going to destroy my husband's family. Are you sure about this? Peyton's voice crackles through my phone speaker. She's been my best friend since college, the only one who knows the full truth. Once you do this, there's no going back. They're throwing a divorce party in my house that they think belongs to them. I watch Karen, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, directing caterers like a 4-star general. They've had this coming for 12 years? My phone buzzes with a text from Xander, my lawyer. New owners ready, documents signed, green light whenever you're ready. I take a deep breath, remembering the first time Karen called me a gold digger. It was at my own wedding reception, whispered just loud enough for me to hear as I passed by. At least Bodhi got a pretty one, she'd said to Sloane, her daughter, though God knows what else she brings to the table. If they'd only known then that I'd inherited this house, along with a substantial trust fund, from my grandmother. But I'd kept quiet, hoping to keep the peace, hoping they'd accept me eventually. What a joke that turned out to be. A sleek BMW pulls up to the curb, and Bodhi steps out, looking exactly like what he is, a man who's lived his entire life on other people's money. My money for the past decade, though he never knew it. He straightens his designer jacket and heads toward the house, not even glancing in my direction. Showtime, I murmur to Peyton. Meet you inside in 20? I'll bring popcorn, she says, only half joking. I watch as more guests arrive, all friends of the Stouts, all people who've smiled to my face while whispering behind my back. Through the large bay windows, I can see Karen holding court in the living room, probably sharing her version of why her precious son had to divorce his gold-digging wife. My phone buzzes again. This time it's Tamara, my aunt. Remember, sweetheart, you don't have to go through with this. We can just serve them papers quietly. But I think about the nights I cried myself to sleep while Bodhi sided with his mother, about the accidental coffee spills on my work designs, about Karen and Sloane's constant hints about my unfortunate inability to have children. I need to do this, I text back. They need to know exactly who they've been messing with. Through the window, I see Karen raising a champagne glass. Even from here, I can read her lips as she starts her speech. To my son's new beginning. The guests cheer, and my resolve hardens. I check my watch. 30 minutes until Xander arrives with the papers. I step out of my car, smoothing down my black dress. It's designer, Chanel, but not obviously so. Karen will hate that she can't quite place it, can't quite calculate its worth. As I approach the house, Raphael, Bodhi's cousin, spots me first. His eyes widen. Aunt Karen, he calls out. We have a situation. The party goes quiet as I push open the front door. Karen's face transforms from shock to fury to a sickly, sweet smile in the span of a second. Leah, dear, she says, voice dripping with false concern. I don't think you were invited to this celebration. I smile, channeling 12 years of patience into this moment. Actually, Karen, I was just making sure you're enjoying my house. The acoustics in here are fantastic, aren't they? Perfect for parties. She starts, then laughs nervously. I think the divorce has confused you, dear. This is the Stout family home. Is it? I pull out my phone, checking the time. That's interesting, because in about 20 minutes my lawyer will be here with some paperwork that says differently. And the new owners, of course? The champagne glass slips from Karen's hand, shattering on the hardwood floors I'd had installed 3 years ago. The sound echoes through the sudden silence, and I feel 12 years of suppressed satisfaction bubble up inside me. What new owners? Bodhi steps forward, face pale. What are you talking about? I lean against the doorframe, my doorframe, and smile. Why don't we wait for everyone to arrive? I'd hate to have to tell this story twice. The clock on the wall ticks loudly in the silence. 20 minutes. After 12 years of playing the quiet, submissive daughter-in-law, 20 minutes feels like nothing at all. Let the party begin. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife as I think back to how this all started. 12 years ago, I was young and stupidly in love with Bodhi, believing his charming smile and promises of forever. We could live with Mum for a while, he'd suggested early in our marriage. Save some money. I remember Peyton's reaction when I told her my plan. We were having coffee at our usual spot, and she nearly choked on her latte. You're going to let them move into your house and pretend it's theirs? She'd stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Leah, that's insane. It's just temporary, I'd assured her. Besides, Bodhi says his mum's having financial troubles. The market crashed and her business is struggling. And you believe that? I hadn't answered, because deep down I already knew. Karen's struggling business somehow afforded her weekly spa treatments and designer handbags. Now, standing in my living room surrounded by hostile faces, I catch snippets of whispered conversations. Can she even afford a lawyer? Sloane stage whispers to her mother. I thought Bodhi froze their joint accounts. Karen pats her daughter's arm. Don't worry, dear. She's bluffing. I slip away from the growing crowd and head upstairs, ostensibly to use the bathroom. Instead, I find myself in what used to be my home office, before Karen suggested converting it into a guest room. Opening the closet, I run my fingers along the wall until I find it. A small envelope tucked behind the baseboards. What are you doing up here? I spin around to find Raphael in the doorway, his expression uncertain. Just reminiscing, I say, sliding the envelope into my purse. Lots of memories in this house. Leah, he steps closer, lowering his voice. Whatever you're planning, please think about what this will do to the family. I laugh, and it sounds bitter even to my own ears. The family? You mean the same family that's celebrating my divorce downstairs? You know how Aunt Karen gets. She's just protective of Bodhi. Protective? I move past him to the hallway. Is that what you call it when she convinced him I was cheating last year? Raphael has the grace to look ashamed. She thought she saw you with someone. My Aunt Tamara, the only real family I have left. I pause at the top of the stairs. But none of you bothered to ask, did you? Downstairs, I hear Bodhi's voice rising in anger. What do you mean? You've been handling her legal matters for years. Xander must have arrived early. Perfect timing. I descend the stairs to find my lawyer standing calmly in the foyer, his briefcase a shield between him and my agitated ex-husband. Ah, Leah, Xander says smoothly. Shall we begin? Begin what? Karen demands, pushing forward. This is a private party and you're both trespassing. Actually, comes a new voice from the doorway. I believe they have every right to be here. Tamara steps into the house, her elegant presence commanding immediate attention. Behind her, Peyton slips in with a barely concealed smirk. Who are you? Karen snaps. I'm the new owner, Tamara says simply. Well, as of... She checks her watch. 15 minutes ago. The colour drains from Karen's face. That's impossible. This house has been in the Stout family for 3 generations, I interrupt. That's funny, because I have documentation showing my grandmother purchased it 25 years ago. Would you like to see the paperwork? Sloane pushes through the crowd. You're lying. Daddy would never have... Sold it? I finish for her. You're right, he didn't. Because it was never his to sell. Xander opens his briefcase, removing a thick folder. I have copies for everyone interested in the property's history, including the transfer of ownership to Leah upon her grandmother's passing 12 years ago. 12 years? Bodhi's voice cracks. But that means when we moved in, when you suggested we live with your mother to save money? I turn to face him. Yes, Bodhi, you moved your entire family into my house, and I let you because I thought maybe if I was accommodating enough, generous enough, your family would finally accept me. The room erupts in chaos. Through it all, I hear Karen's shrill voice. She's lying. She has to be lying. But I'm not done. Not even close. Because I just heard something through the open window that makes this moment even sweeter. The sound of moving trucks pulling up outside. Oh, I say, raising my voice above the din. Did I mention the new owners want to take possession immediately? Tamara isn't a fan of waiting. The look of pure horror on Karen's face makes 12 years of patience worth every second. The moving crew files in with practiced efficiency, their presence adding a surreal quality to the chaos. Karen clutches her champagne glass like a weapon, while Sloane frantically dials someone on her phone, probably their family lawyer. You can't do this, Bodhi says, his voice trembling. We have rights as tenants. Xander steps forward, pulling another document from his briefcase. Actually, you don't. You've never paid rent, never signed a lease, and there's no formal agreement. Legally, you're guests who've overstayed their welcome. I slip away from the commotion, walking through rooms that hold more bitter memories than sweet ones. In the kitchen, I find the drawer where Karen keeps her precious family photos. Right on top is the wedding portrait she had professionally done, just Bodhi and his family. I was conveniently excluded. Looking for something specific? I turn to find Sloane in the doorway, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the frame. Just remembering, I say, closing the drawer. Like that time you told everyone at Christmas dinner that I'd tried to seduce your husband. She flushes. That was a misunderstanding? I pull out my phone, playing a recording. Her voice fills the kitchen. Just tell everyone she came onto you, Jack. Mum wants her gone, and this could be our chance. Sloane's face goes white. You recorded me? I recorded everything. I move past her toward the study. After the third time your mother accidentally ruined my client presentations, I learned to keep receipts. The study door is locked, but I still have my key. Inside, Karen's prized antique desk dominates the room. This is where she held her weekly family meetings I was never invited to attend. As I'm opening drawers, Peyton appears in the doorway. The movers want to know which furniture stays and which goes. Everything with a blue sticker is mine, I say, finally finding what I'm looking for, a thick manila envelope hidden in the false bottom of the top drawer. The rest belongs to the Stouts. They have 24 hours to remove it. 24 hours? Karen's voice screeches from behind Peyton. You can't just throw us out on the street, like you tried to do to me last month? I turn, holding up the envelope. When you forged my signature on divorce papers and tried to force me out before the proceedings were final. Karen's face goes from red to purple. Those papers were perfectly legal. They were fraudulent, Xander says, appearing beside her. And we have proof. Would you like to discuss potential criminal charges now, or should we handle that separately? From downstairs comes the sound of breaking glass, followed by shouting. We rush to the landing to find Bodhi facing off with one of the movers, a shattered vase between them. That's a family heirloom, he yells. You can't just... It's my grandmother's Waterford, I interrupt. The one Karen claimed was a Stout family piece, when she allocated it to her room. The party guests are starting to leave, slipping out with embarrassed murmurs and averted eyes. Only Raphael remains, looking lost among the moving boxes. I found this, he says quietly, holding out a photo album. It's from your first year here. I take it, flipping through pages of happier times. Before Karen convinced Bodhi I was beneath their social standing. Before Sloane started her whisper campaign about my suspicious inability to conceive. I should have said something, Raphael continues. When they started, when I knew they were systematically trying to destroy my marriage and self-worth. I close the album. Yes, you should have. A loud crash from upstairs makes everyone jump. We rush up to find Sloane in my old office, frantically searching through drawers. Looking for this? I hold up the envelope from earlier. Your mother's letter to Bodhi? The one where she outlines her entire plan to save him from his unfortunate marriage by introducing him to her friend's daughter. Sloane freezes. Bodhi steps forward. What letter? The one explaining how I was just a placeholder until someone more suitable came along. I hand him the envelope, dated 3 months after our wedding. He opens it with shaking hands, his face growing paler as he reads. Karen appears in the doorway, for once speechless. The movers will work around you, I say, turning to leave, but everything needs to be out by this time tomorrow. Anything left behind will be considered abandoned property. Leah, Bodhi calls after me, his voice breaking. I didn't know about the letter, about any of it. I pause at the top of the stairs, thinking of all the times he chose not to know, chose not to see. That's the problem, Bodhi. You never wanted to know. The sound of the movers continues below, dismantling the carefully constructed facade of the past 12 years. And for the first time since this all began, I feel something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not even anger. I feel free. The next few hours pass in a blur of moving boxes and shattered illusions. I sit on the front porch swing, the one Bodhi claimed his grandfather built, but I have the receipt from the craftsman who actually made it, watching the Stouts world implode. We need to talk about the shop, Xander says, settling beside me with a manila folder. Not yet, I reply, watching Karen direct the movers with increasingly desperate commands. Let them process this first. Time isn't on our side here, he insists. The mortgage. What mortgage? Sloane appears, her mascara smeared. What are you talking about? I share a look with Xander before standing. Maybe we should discuss this inside. The living room is half empty now, moving boxes stacked where family photos once hung. Karen is there, clutching a crystal decanter like it might save her. The boutique, I say simply. Your mother's pride and joy. Karen's grip on the decanter tightens. What about my shop? Remember 3 years ago when you needed an emergency loan? I pull out my phone, scrolling through emails. The bank required a co-signer? The colour drains from her face. You wouldn't. I already have. I nod to Xander, who produces more paperwork. When you forged my signature on those divorce papers, you violated the terms of the loan agreement. The bank is calling it in. But that's impossible. Karen's voice rises to a shriek. I never asked you to co-sign anything. No, Bodhi says quietly from the doorway. You asked me, and I forged Leah's signature because you said it was just a formality, that you'd have the money in a month. The decanter slips from Karen's hands, joining the growing collection of broken crystal on the floor. Bodhi, she whispers, how could you? How could I? He laughs, harsh and hollow. I've been doing things like that for years, Mother. Covering your spending, hiding your schemes. I just never thought... He looks at me. I never thought it would cost me everything. Peyton appears with fresh coffee, handing me a cup. The movers found something interesting in the attic, she says. Looks like financial records. Those are private. Karen lunges for the box Peyton indicates, but Xander steps in smoothly. Actually, as co-signer on the business loan, Leah has every right to review these documents. I flip through the files, each page revealing new layers of deception. You've been embezzling from your own business, I say, looking up at Karen. Using my credit as guarantee for loans you never intended to repay. It wasn't like that, she protests weakly. Then what was it like? I spread the papers on the half-packed dining room table. Because it looks like you've been running a Ponzi scheme with your investors' money. Does the name Margaret ring a bell? The widow you convinced to put her life savings into your expansion project? Sloane sinks into a chair, her perfect facade crumbling. Mother, you promised that money went to the new location. It did, Karen insists. Most of it anyway. The rest was just... borrowed. For what? Bodhi demands. The country club membership? The spa weekends? The designer wardrobe you said came from your business profits? A heavy silence falls, broken only by the sound of movers in other rooms. I can still fix this, Karen says. but her voice has lost its usual authority. I just need time. Time's up, Xander interrupts. The bank is auditing the books first thing Monday morning. Raphael, who's been quietly watching from the corner, finally speaks. What happens now? Now, I say, gathering the documents. You all have 18 hours to remove your belongings from my house. After that, Karen needs to contact her own lawyer about the fraud charges she's facing. You're bluffing, Sloane says, but there's no conviction in her voice. Am I? I hand her a copy of the loan documents. Check the signature dates against your mother's bank records. Everything you need to know is right there. You'll destroy this family, Karen whispers. No, Karen, you did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. Bodhi steps forward, his face ashen. Leah, please, whatever Mum did, whatever I did, there has to be another way. For a moment, looking at him, I feel a flicker of the love we once shared. But then I remember all the times he stood silent while his family tore me down, all the lies he helped maintain. There was another way, I say quietly. For 12 years, there were other ways. You all just chose not to take them. The grandfather clock, my grandfather clock, chimes in the hall, marking another hour gone. Outside, the moving trucks continue their work, dismantling the careful illusion the Stouts built their lives around. And in the growing shadows of evening, I watch as karma finally comes to collect its due. Night falls, but nobody sleeps. The movers have gone, leaving behind half-empty rooms and shattered pretenses. Karen paces the kitchen, making frantic phone calls to lawyers who won't answer at this hour. Sloane sits on the stairs, scrolling through her phone, probably searching for some legal loophole to save them. Your mother's investment group is already responding, Peyton says, showing me her tablet. Someone leaked the audit news. That wasn't me, I say, though I know exactly who did. Margaret, the widow Karen swindled, has friends on the board. Bodhi emerges from his study, holding a stack of papers. I found more, he says, voice hollow. Mum's been forging documents for years, not just the loan stuff. I know. I take the papers, adding them to Xander's growing file. She forged my signature on insurance policies, investment accounts, even tried to refinance the house last year. Why didn't you say something sooner? Would you have believed me? He doesn't answer, which is an answer in itself. A crash from upstairs makes us all jump. We rush up to find Karen in my old office, frantically shredding documents. That's enough, Xander says sharply, unplugging the shredder. Those are evidence. Evidence of what? Karen's voice is shrill. A daughter-in-law's vindictive lies? I built this family's reputation. I protected us from people like her. People like me. I step forward. You mean people who actually earned their money? Who didn't have to steal from grieving widows to maintain their lifestyle? I did not steal. Margaret sends her regards, I cut in. She's very interested in the audit. So are the other investors. Karen lunges for the papers, but Xander is faster. Mrs. Stout, I strongly advise you to stop. You're only making things worse. Worse? She laughs, high and brittle. My son's gold-digging wife just destroyed everything we've built, and you think it can get worse? Actually, it can. I pull out my phone, showing her the screen. Your investors are calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. They've seen the preliminary numbers. The fight drains from her face. How? Did I mention Margaret's daughter works for the SEC? Sloane appears in the doorway, her own phone clutched tight. Mother, the country club just called. They're suspending our membership pending investigation. The business accounts are frozen too, Bodhi adds quietly. I just checked. Karen sinks into the desk chair, my desk chair, her carefully maintained facade crumbling. You don't understand, she whispers. After Bodhi's father left, I had to maintain appearances. I had to protect our social standing. By stealing, I ask? By destroying anyone who threatened your perfect image? I did what I had to do, including trying to break up my marriage, making me believe I wasn't good enough for your son. You weren't. She stands again, mask slipping completely. You were nothing. A nobody who got lucky with an inheritance. I had to protect Bodhi from... From what? Bodhi interrupts. From someone who actually loved me? who put up with years of abuse because she thought I was worth it? The silence that follows is deafening. The police will be here in the morning, Xander says into the quiet. I suggest you use this time to pack and contact your lawyer. Police? Sloane's voice shakes. But we're the victims here. She tricked us. No. Raphael speaks up from the hallway. We tricked ourselves. We saw what Aunt Karen was doing to Leah for years. We just didn't want to admit it. Karen turns to Bodhi, reaching for him. Darling, you can't let this happen. Everything I did for you. But Bodhi steps back. No, Mother. You did it for yourself, and now we're all paying for it. Dawn is breaking when Tamara arrives with coffee and pastries. She surveys the chaos with calm eyes. The moving company will return at 9, she says. Everything needs to be out by then. You can't just throw us out, Sloane protests weakly. Actually, we can. Tamara's voice is steel wrapped in silk. And given what we've discovered about your mother's financial dealings, I'd focus less on where you're going and more on finding good criminal defense lawyers. I watch as reality finally settles over the Stouts. Their carefully constructed world of privilege and pretense is collapsing, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Leah. Bodhi tries one last time. Please, we can work something out. But I think of 12 years of subtle cruelty, of calculated humiliation, of a family that saw me as nothing but a threat to their precious status. No, I say quietly. We really can't. The sun rises over my house, truly mine now, as the Stouts begin their exodus, leaving behind broken crystal, shattered illusions, and the weight of 12 years of lies. The morning brings chaos spilling onto the front lawn. Neighbours peek through curtains as the Stouts' carefully curated life is dismantled piece by piece. Karen stands by her Mercedes, barking orders at the movers, while simultaneously arguing with someone on her phone. The investors want an emergency meeting today, Xander tells me, watching the scene unfold. They're not waiting until Monday. A sleek black SUV pulls up, and Margaret steps out, the widow Karen swindled. She's elegant in her 60s, radiating quiet fury as she approaches. Karen, she calls out, I believe we need to talk. Karen spins around, phone dropping from her hand. Margaret, I can explain everything. Explain what? How you used my husband's death benefits to fund your daughter's wedding, or how you forged my signature on those investment documents. Sloane freezes halfway down the front steps, clutching a box of designer shoes. You did what? It wasn't like that, Karen stammers. The money was invested. In your personal accounts? Margaret finishes. My daughter traced every transfer. Would you like to see the records? More cars are arriving now. Other investors, board members, people Karen has been deceiving for years. The quiet suburban street transforms into a stage for public humiliation. This is all your fault! Karen whirls on me, mascara streaking down her face. You vindictive little... That's enough. Bodhi steps between us, surprising everyone. Stop blaming Leah for your crimes, Mother. Crimes? Karen laughs hysterically. I was protecting our family, our reputation. By stealing from your friends? Margaret asks quietly. By destroying your son's marriage? She was never good enough for him. She had more money than all of us, Bodhi interrupts, and never once lorded it over anyone. Unlike you, Mother. Sloane drops her box, shoes scattering across the lawn. What do you mean, more money? The trust fund, Raphael says, emerging from the house. I found the paperwork in Karen's study. Leah's grandmother left her millions, not just the house. She could have bought and sold us 10 times over. The revelation sends ripples through the gathering crowd. Karen sways on her feet, reaching for her car to steady herself. That's impossible, she whispers. I checked. Under the wrong name, I say. My grandmother's marriage name, not her family name. You were so convinced I was a gold digger, you never bothered to look deeper. A police cruiser pulls up, followed by 2 serious-looking men in suits. Mrs. Stout, one calls out. I'm Detective Morris. We need to ask you some questions about certain financial irregularities. You can't prove anything, Karen says, but her voice trembles. Actually, Margaret steps forward. We can prove everything. Your son's been quite helpful this morning, turning over documents. All eyes turn to Bodhi, who stands pale but resolute. I'm done covering up your lies, Mother. I'm done losing everything that matters because of your schemes. Bodhi! Karen reaches for him, but he steps back. I'm your mother, and I'm your son, not your accomplice. Not anymore. The detective moves forward with handcuffs as Karen's carefully constructed world crumbles completely. Sloane bursts into tears, mascara joining her mother's in black streaks. What about the shop? She sobs. Our accounts? Our reputation? All frozen, Xander says clinically. Pending investigation. As Karen is led to the police car, she makes one last desperate play. I'll tell everyone, she shrieks, about how you trapped my son, how you manipulated us all. I step forward, voice carrying across the lawn. Tell them what, Karen? That I let you live in my house for 12 years? That I covered your bounce checks? That I kept quiet while you stole from your friends and tried to destroy my marriage? The gathered crowd murmurs, and I see realization dawn in their eyes. These people, Karen's precious social circle, are finally seeing the truth. The country club will hear about this. It's her last desperate shot. They already have, Margaret says coldly. The board met this morning. Your membership is permanently revoked. As the police car pulls away, Bodhi turns to me. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm sorry. For everything. You're right, I say quietly. It doesn't make up for anything. The movers continue their work as the crowd slowly disperses. Sloane sits on the front steps, surrounded by scattered designer shoes, looking lost. Raphael helps the movers in silence, while Bodhi stands in the driveway, watching his family's reputation dissolve in the morning sun. Peyton appears at my side. You okay? I watch as 12 years of lies and manipulation finally face the light of day. I don't know, I answer honestly, but I think I will be. The morning wears on, and with each box removed, each piece of furniture loaded into trucks, I feel the weight of the past growing lighter. But as I catch Bodhi's broken expression, I realize that victory doesn't always taste as sweet as we expect. By late afternoon, the house is almost empty. Bodhi finds me in the kitchen, where I'm watching the last of Karen's precious crystal being packed away. Can we talk? He asks, looking more dishevelled than I've ever seen him. Please. I nod, following him to the back porch, the same porch where he proposed 12 years ago. The swing still creaks the same way. I found this, he says, pulling out a worn envelope. It's from our first anniversary. Inside is a card I'd written him, full of hope and promises. Before Karen's manipulation took root, before everything soured. I was happy then, he says quietly. We were happy. Until your mother convinced you I wasn't good enough. I should have stood up to her. He runs a hand through his hair. Should have seen what she was doing to you, to us. A commotion from the front yard interrupts us. Sloane's voice rises in hysteria. What do you mean my cards are declined? We round the house to find her arguing with the moving company supervisor. Listen, lady, he says, we need payment now, or these trucks aren't moving. This is ridiculous. Sloane pulls out another credit card. Try this one. All your accounts are frozen, Xander reminds her, appearing with another stack of documents. That includes credit cards. Then how are we supposed to move our things? She demands. They're not all your things, I say quietly. The artwork in the dining room? Those are my grandmother's pieces. The antique desk Karen claimed was a family heirloom? I have the purchase receipt. Sloane's face crumples. Where are we supposed to go? Raphael offered to help, Bodhi tells her. He has space in his guest house. A guest house? She laughs bitterly. We had a mansion this morning. No, I correct her. You had my house this morning. There's a difference. Peyton approaches with her tablet. You might want to see this. The local news website is already running the story. Prominent socialite arrested for investment fraud. Below are photos of Karen being led to the police car, along with details about the scheme she'd been running through her boutique. Mother's going to jail, isn't she? Sloane whispers. The evidence is pretty clear, Xander says. The SEC doesn't mess around with fraud cases. Bodhi sinks onto the front steps. All those times she said she needed my signature for business expenses. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't want to see it. None of us did, Raphael adds, carrying out another box. We all bought into Aunt Karen's perfect world. Speak for yourself, Peyton mutters. The moving supervisor clears his throat. About the payment. I pull out my credit card. I'll cover it. Leah, no, Bodhi protests. You don't have to. Actually, I do. I hand over my card. Because, unlike your mother, I know the difference between revenge and cruelty. As the movers resume their work, Tamara arrives with her interior designer. They walk through the house, discussing renovations, while the Stouts watch their life being packed into trucks. I found this, Raphael says, holding out a photo album. It's from before. Everything. The photos show happier times, holidays, dinners, moments when the facade of family felt real, before Karen's machinations poisoned everything. Keep it, I tell him. Someone should remember the good parts. Sloane approaches hesitantly. I'm sorry. About the infertility rumours. About everything. Are you sorry it happened or sorry you got caught? She doesn't answer, which tells me everything I need to know. The sun is setting when the last truck is loaded. Bodhi stands in the driveway, keys in hand. I really loved you, he says softly, before I let Mum convince me that status mattered more than happiness. I know, I reply. That's what makes it all worse. He nods, understanding finally reflecting in his eyes. For what it's worth, you were always too good for us, not the other way around. As the trucks pull away, carrying the remnants of the Stouts' carefully constructed life, I feel no triumph, just a quiet certainty that karma, when it comes, doesn't always bring satisfaction. Sometimes it just brings truth. Peyton touches my arm. You okay? Ask me tomorrow, I say, watching Bodhi's car disappear around the corner. Inside, the house feels different, emptier, but somehow lighter. The weight of 12 years of lies and pretense is gone, leaving only echoes and possibilities. Tamara finds me in the kitchen, where Karen's crystal cabinet stands empty. Ready to make this place yours again? I look around at the space that was mine all along, thinking of all the changes to come. Yes, I say finally. I think I am. But as night falls and silence settles over the empty rooms, I wonder if winning feels this hollow for everyone, or if some victories are meant to taste like goodbye. The morning newspaper lands on my doorstep with a dull thud. The headline reads, Local boutique owner pleads guilty to investment fraud. Below is Karen's mugshot, her perfect makeup and unpracticed smile replaced by stark reality. My phone buzzes with a text from Raphael. Aunt Karen took a plea deal. 5 years. Sloane's not handling it well. Are any of them? I type back. No, but maybe that's not a bad thing. I'm sipping coffee on the porch when a familiar car pulls up. Margaret steps out carrying a small box. I thought you might want these back, she says, setting it down. Inside are photos and documents, evidence of Karen's schemes that the prosecutors no longer need. How are the other investors? I ask. Recovering. The forensic accountants found most of the money. Karen wasn't as clever as she thought. Margaret sits beside me. Though I suspect you knew that all along. I had my suspicions, but proving it took patience and courage. She smiles sadly. My late husband always said karma works on its own schedule. A moving truck appears at the end of the street, not taking things away this time, but bringing them back. My grandmother's antique furniture, stored safely all these years, finally returning home. Peyton arrives as the movers unload. Did you see the country club newsletter? They're doing damage control, trying to distance themselves from the whole scandal. The mighty Stouts, I muse. Not so mighty anymore. Speaking of which, Peyton nods toward an approaching figure. It's Bodhi, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes instead of his usual designer suits. Can we talk? He asks. Inside, the house is transforming. Gone are Karen's oppressive dark curtains and stuffy furniture arrangements. Light streams through clean windows, touching spaces that haven't seen sun in years. I'm selling the condo, Bodhi says, following me to the kitchen. Moving out of state, actually, taking a job offer in Seattle. Running away. Starting over. He traces a finger along the counter. Something I should have done years ago. And Sloane? Living with Raphael for now. She's struggling. Reality isn't what she thought it was. I pour him coffee out of habit, then catch myself. Some patterns die hard. I found this, he says, pulling out an old envelope. From our first date. You wrote down all your dreams on a napkin. I remember that night. How young we were, how full of possibilities. Before Karen's poison, before status and appearances became everything. You achieved them all, he continues. The design firm, the charity work, even that community art program you wanted to start, while I just existed in my mother's shadow. You chose that shadow, I remind him. I know. That's why I'm leaving. I need to find out who I am without it. The doorbell rings. It's Tamara with paint samples and renovation plans. Real changes for a fresh start. I should go, Bodhi says, standing. Balea, thank you. For what? For showing me the truth, even if I didn't want to see it. After he leaves, Peyton helps me sort through boxes, separating past from present. We find old Christmas cards, wedding photos, memories of a family that never really existed, except in Karen's carefully crafted illusion. Raphael says Karen's already planning her comeback, Peyton mentions, even from jail. Some people never learn, and some people teach the best lessons. She holds up a magazine, the latest issue of Design Weekly, featuring my firm's newest project. Speaking of which, the article mentions the scandal, but focuses more on my work, my vision. No longer Bodhi Stout's wife, but Leah, the designer who turned adversity into art. As evening approaches, Margaret and Tamara help me arrange my grandmother's furniture, pieces that tell my real family story. The house feels different now, lighter somehow, like it can breathe again. You know, Tamara says, adjusting a painting, revenge wasn't really your goal, was it? No, I admit. I just wanted the truth to come out. Everything else was Karma's doing. A car slows down outside, Karen's old friends, probably hoping to glimpse some drama. But all they see is a home being restored, a life being reclaimed. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from Raphael. Sloane asked about you today. Actually said she understands now. Maybe that's a start. I stand in my doorway, watching the sunset paint my porch in shades of possibility. The revenge I thought I wanted has transformed into something else. Liberation. Not just from the Stouts, but from the weight of pretense, from the exhaustion of being less than I am. The house creaks softly, settling into its new reality. And finally, so do I.